Very pleased to support this excellent motion recognising and acknowledging World Teachers' Day and thanking the teachers, acknowledging the really important role teachers play in the lives of many young people, all of our young people and our community. Last Friday on World Teachers' Day, I was pleased to join for a period of time, along with the Minister, obviously, the Educators SA organisation in their celebration and awards for World Teachers' Day. Educators SA is a collective group of all of the professional associations for teachers, dozens and dozens of them, and the range of awards celebrates excellence, is to be commended, and it's a joy every year to see that work done. I appreciate all of those teachers in our South Australian schools for the work they do for South Australia, for our young people. The range of work that successive governments do, we seek the best for our students, for our children, and every program, of course, has to be delivered, and the people who do that work are our teachers. We ask a lot of them, and there are important discussions to be had about workload and about the range of duties required of teachers. They share with the public policy goal of desiring the absolute very best for our students and young people, and understand that. So those discussions about workload will continue, but in this House, for the moment, for the purpose of this motion, we say thank you. Earlier on Friday, long before and many kilometres away from the Educators SA Awards Night, I was pleased to join the member for Frome at her office opening and also a street corner meeting where we also spoke to some teachers and were very pleased to say, congratulate them on World Teachers' Day, retired as they were. But the member for Frome herself, of course, is a former teacher, and indeed one of the things she taught, amongst others, was French. So every year when we discuss this motion, I do like to reflect something on one's own personal experience. In this case, I want to talk about language teachers because in the roles that language teachers do, it's not an easy job within a school. Sometimes you're competing with classroom teachers in primary school or other specialist teachers in high school for space in the school, in the curriculum. Sometimes language teachers aren't able to access their own special room. They have to go from class to class to class, which is suboptimal because what can be enlivened in a school when a language teacher has their own environment is like transporting the student into another country, into another world, and seeing the world through different eyes. And every language teacher who is able to inspire their students effectively to think about the world through another lens, through the use of language, but also exposure to culture, and also raising their eyes to the prospect of future travel is an absolute joy and a journey. I think of my own experience. I thank Frau Sanders, my primary school German teacher, and Ms. Callanan, my high school Japanese teacher, and Mr. Anderson, my high school Latin teacher. If you want to think about experiencing a journey to a different world, not just through a different geography but a different time, then I encourage the study of Latin, ancient Greek and other languages amongst anyone. Also, I should say Justin Putland as well, who was my mate in high school that helped me pass Japanese in year 10 and 11 when my own lack of hard work and study had me on the margins a couple of times. Justin is now a Japanese teacher, having taught English in Japan, now teaches Japanese in South Australia. But all of those teachers and Justin who helped me get through high school took me through my childhood into adulthood with the desire to experience the world and explore the world, and also to understand the world through different lenses. This is an opportunity and a privilege that I think is available to our young people, but unfortunately not as many as we would like, take up that opportunity. It's almost a luxury having English as a language that is spoken so widely across the world that I think many people in our community don't see the value in learning other languages. But it is more than just the skill and the capacity to engage with somebody in another language if they don't speak English. It is so much more than that. It is the way to open one's mind to different experiences and to see the world through other eyes. It helps with empathy. It helps with one's own English communication skills. And I always tell young people when I'm visiting schools, especially if there's a language context that's appropriate, if an employer is looking at a CV and sees language as being something that is a skill or a strength, then it immediately highlights to them that that is somebody that is more worth employing. I also recognise all of the other teachers I had in languages through my checkered university career. I did one semester here, one semester there, a couple of years of other languages. I did 2 years of Spanish. I did less time in German, Italian, and another year of Latin, and also I did one semester of French. For all of those lecturers and teachers who tried to help me in those subjects, I thank them. They were very important. And more recently in Italian, the Centro di Tattico's Alessandra Hanget, and my wife's Zio Elio and Zia Rosi, and my father-in-law Lorenzo have all been incredibly important teachers of Italian, which is a skill that has all of the benefits I've described of learning a language, plus it's actually a requirement if you're the member for Morialta to have some skill there. So I thank them on World Teachers' Day for the work that they did. The other event that I participated in on World Teachers' Day was at Adelaide University, the Marjorie Banks Lecture in memory of former Dean of the School of Education and former Vice-Chancellor of the University of Adelaide, whose role in developing education, pedagogy and philosophy in South Australia was significant. Professor Susan James Relly, formerly of Oxford University, now of the University of Adelaide, head of the School of Education, brought to Adelaide Mr. Ziauddin Yousafzai and Mrs. Yousafzai. Ziauddin Yousafzai delivered the Marjorie Banks Lecture, and it was an extraordinary privilege to be able to meet with Mr. Yousafzai and Mrs. Yousafzai prior to the lecture and to hear him talk, and he spoke again at the Educators SA function later that night. People may be wondering what his role is, and they may remember the surname Yousafzai. His daughter is Malala Yousafzai, Nobel Prize winner and the most extraordinary living advocate for education, and particularly the education of girls and people in vulnerable communities in the world. And Mr. Yousafzai in his lecture talked about the experience of him growing up in an utterly patriarchal society where he and his brother were educated and his sisters and his mother were not, where his sisters and his mother were known as wife of the male or daughter of the male, or indeed mother of the male. If he was going to the doctor with his mother, it would be his name and mother of Ziauddin Yousafzai, to put it into context. In that context, with the Taliban making physical threats against his family, he and his family supported his daughter to keep getting education and advocating for education, and she was shot, and people are aware of the story beyond that, but continuing to be an advocate for education despite the physical risk and the risk to family that entailed. Because, of course, there are tens of millions of girls and young women around the world who are unable to access education, and that is a tragedy and a shame every day. So the fact that we want our children to have courage and grace and wisdom and strength like Malala, I've got to say, as a father and somebody who's interested in education, it was a real privilege to meet Mr. Yousafzai. We need role models like him, and the advocacy that he provides to girls and young women around the world in an ongoing way, along with his whole family, of course, is really important. So I thank them for participating, and I think particularly thank Professor Relly for her role in bringing him to Adelaide, sharing his opportunities to meet with school leaders, schools, and I understand explore a bit of South Australia as well. With the history of the world, education has not been valued for what it should have been. The heights of range of civilizations, the Greeks, the Romans, nobody educated more than 10 to 15% of the population. We now understand the extraordinary benefit is to the individual and the community when a teacher is able to support a child's learning. And it is understood that in the next 30 years, as many people are going to be educated as have been educated in the entire history of the world due to growth and our expectation, our understanding that education should be universal. Our teachers are going to be the fundamental, critical role models for all young people going forward, and we cannot understate enough the important role they play. So on International World Teachers' Day, we say thank you.